Cody, thanks for the chat. It's been a half season basically for you, and you've been around the league a bunch. You know what to expect team to team, but reality versus expectations of being a Shark. What did you think coming in, and what do you think now?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a younger team. There's going to be a lot of learning involved, but exciting, and I think it's kind of matched that so far with the young guys being as good as they are and as exciting as they are to watch. It's cool to see that, and then it's cool to see them learn at the same time. We
obviously have no clue how your NHL journey ends, but so cool how it started. Born and raised in Ottawa, get drafted by the Sens, get to play for the Sens for a long amount of time. Will that always be sentimental for you, just how you came into this league?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're young, it's nice to be close to family and friends, and I was lucky enough to have that right in my own city, and to play for the team that I grew up cheering for was awesome. So I was definitely lucky in that sense to get drafted there.
You'll always be attached to Ottawa, right? I mean, in that sense?
Yeah, for sure.
No matter what team you're on, no matter where you go.
For sure. I mean, I spend my summers there still. My family's all there. Friends are all there. So, yeah, definitely Ottawa is home for me.
Dad was a professional athlete, a football player. Played in the CFL, but only for a brief time, right? For Calgary?
Yeah, he played for Calgary for a little bit, and then he got hurt, and that was kind of the end of his career.
So well before you were born then, you never got to see this in person. Any tapes you've watched?
I've seen some tapes, yeah. He's got a couple tapes from when he was at Guelph University that he likes to bring out.
Wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
So was that just coincidence that you also turned out to be a pro in something else, or do you think maybe having an influence like that helped mold who you became?
I think it definitely helped mold me. My mom was a figure skater, and my dad was a football player. So my mom taught us how to skate pretty young, and then my dad didn't really want us figure skating, so we ended up in hockey. And I played football for a couple of years, played lacrosse and played summer hockey, and just kind of fell in love with hockey over everything.
All right, so you've played many years in this league, but you also have 88 postseason games under your belt. If you think about it, that's a whole full other season of just playoff games alone. And I know you're coming off being in the Stanley Cup Final last year. Is there something about that fourth and final round and the experience that you gain being that close to the Cup that's different from any other playoff game?
Yeah, I think any year you're in playoffs, you learn something new. You just got to find ways to win. They're all such close games that every little mistake can cost you. Being in the Stanley Cup Final, everything's magnified times a million, I'd say. Just it's definitely a great experience. You want to come out on the other side of what we did, but just being there was a pretty amazing experience.
When it was all over, and obviously the Sharks have been that far too, also lost to Pittsburgh in 2016, does it ever come upon you the thought of how hard it was to even get to that fourth and final round? How many bounces, how many good breaks you needed just to get to that Stanley Cup Final?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the journey is always... I mean, our journey was pretty crazy last year, starting the way we did, coaching change and getting all the way to Game 7 in the Cup Final, even after being down 3 in the final series. So, yeah, it's just everything's got to kind of align. Definitely a lot of hard work, but sometimes it is just a bounce or two to go your way that lets you get that far. And took me 11 seasons to get there. So it's definitely not easy, but it's quite the accomplishment when you get there.
So you're getting ready to be a UFA, and I know this is not the business side. That's for your agent to take care of. How about the personal side of that? Like, there's a little bit of uncertainty that as of right now, you just don't know where next year is going to be. And I guess that could always be the case with trades and the nature of being a hockey player. But what's the personal side like of just kind of not knowing, and maybe some optimism about staying or something new or just something that you can attach to?
Yeah, it is tougher when you're not sure where you're going to be next year. It's harder to just get settled, and now with a family, makes it that much tougher. But my wife has been great with it. We've been all over the place and got to live in some pretty cool cities and meet a lot of people that we've become friends with. So the journey's been good. We're optimistic in staying. I think we really like what's going on here, and I think it's a good fit for me and for the team. So we're optimistic that way. But at the end of the day, it's got to be mutual, and I understand that at this point in my career.
All right, this is kind of a going fishing type question here. What's the most difficult game situation an NHL D-man can find themselves in? Like, what's the spot where you're like, oh, this is tough. This is a pinch.
I don't know.
2-on-1 seems obvious, but maybe 3-on-2 is tougher. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say 2-on-1 for sure.
That's it?
Especially with all the high-end talent in the league right now. There's a lot of guys you don't want to get stuck on 2-on-1 with.
It's almost like you're a hero if you prevent, right? I mean, what else are you supposed to do? You're outmanned, you're outmatched. I guess that's the nature of being a D-man, though, too, right? You know what you signed up for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you can get a stick on it, then you become the hero. But it's never fun getting scored on.
Of the teams you've been on, and obviously you've been teammates with Sid, you've been on a teammate with Connor McDavid, a teammate of Connor McDavid. Are those teams any different, being that they have what's considered maybe the highest of superstardom on the roster, and as your teammate?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there are always guys you can look to, and there are always guys that can change the course of the game in a shift or two. I mean, they have that high end talent just to turn it on and change the game and score a goal or do something unbelievable that I've never seen before. So yeah, I mean, it's great to have those guys on your team. If nothing's happening in the game, they can change it in a second, and all of a sudden you're up.
I mean, NHL players are of a certain level and quality already, the best in the world. But is it fair to say that even some of the very best in this league can amaze you in what they're doing?
Yeah, I think just the way they do it every single night and kind of make it look easy every single night, when sometimes it could take 10 games for someone else to do something like that. So, yeah, the consistency in the guys I play with the last few years has been pretty amazing. Yeah.
And I feel like from a coaching standpoint, when you change lines, that's one thing. There's 3 guys, so maybe they keep 2 together and try and float around a new winger or something like that. But D partners is just a special relationship. It's you and somebody else, and you kind of get to know them and they get to know you. I'm not going to ask you any specific player you like playing with here on the Sharks, but what are the good qualities overall in the NHL? What's a good D partner for you?
I think it's boils down to the chemistry. Like you said, you just got to know where each other are, feed off each other. I mean, sometimes you can have 2 amazing players that just don't work well together as a pairing.
We've seen it.
And yeah, that's just the reality of it, is that you got to work well together and get along on the ice and off the ice.
We've seen this season glimpses of the Sharks and going on a couple game stretch and looking good and beating very good teams. But that hasn't been consistent, right? And that's to be expected. This is a team that's growing and making strides. Is it ultimately for this group just getting to that consistent level of output and results? Because again, I think a lot of times it's there, or it's really starting to be there, and you know what's there.
Yeah, I think that's been a learning process for us this year. There's been a few games, maybe a few too many, that we've let slip where we could have got points in, and that's been frustrating. We worked that hard for, say, 57 minutes and let something slip at the end of the game, and all of a sudden we're not getting a point out of the game. So that's been the learning process. We've shown that we can hang around with good teams and beat good teams, which is promising, but now it's about getting that final result.
Last one for you here, and it just seems like one of the hardest things about this season is so many close games where it was a competitive loss, right? You were right there, but just don't get the result. Is it maybe the case of having to deal with games you could have won, games you should have won and didn't, but also being able to celebrate the times where you do get the win, you do get the result? What's the contrast there like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there are takeaways from the games where you're competitive and you lose, but to me, it's still a loss. Yeah. So they're still tough. But on the flip side, when you do win those games, it feels that much better when you are working as hard as we are to get the wins and to get that success. So yeah, the wins have been great. Losses are still losses, so they're still tough to deal with.
All right, Cody, I appreciate the time. Good to have you this year, and I hope to see you for quite a while.
All right, thank you.